Have you ever wondered what could have been the closest the world ever came to a nuclear war? The answer lies in the events of October 1962, during the height of the Cold War, in what is now known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. Our journey begins in the early 20th century with the birth of two global superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The end of World War II saw these two nations emerge as leaders on the global stage, each with its own distinct ideology. The United States championed capitalism and democracy, while the Soviet Union advocated for communism. The ideological differences between these two superpowers led to a series of political and military tensions, known as the Cold War. It was a war of words and threats, a war of espionage and proxy wars, but most importantly, it was a nuclear arms race. Fast forward to the 1950s. Cuba, a small island nation in the Caribbean, was under the dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista, a leader widely criticized for his corruption and his close ties with the United States. In 1959, a young revolutionary named Fidel Castro overthrew Batista and established a socialist state in Cuba. Castro's socialist regime, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida, was seen as a threat by the United States. In an attempt to overthrow Castro, the United States sponsored an invasion of Cuba in April 1961, known as the Bay of Pigs invasion. The invasion failed miserably, pushing Castro further into the arms of the Soviet Union. By the summer of 1962, the Soviet Union started to secretly install nuclear missiles in Cuba. The United States discovered these installations in October, and for 13 days, the world held its breath as the two superpowers stood on the brink of nuclear war. During these tense 13 days, President John F. Kennedy and Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev engaged in a diplomatic chess game. Ultimately, the crisis ended when the Soviet Union agreed to remove its missiles from Cuba in exchange for the United States' promise not to invade Cuba and to remove its own missiles from Turkey. In our exploration of the Cuban Missile Crisis, we've traced the rise of two global superpowers, their ideological clash in the Cold War, and the series of events that led to the tense 13 days in October 1962. We dove into the failed Bay of Pigs invasion, the secret installation of nuclear missiles in Cuba, and the diplomatic negotiations that ultimately averted a nuclear war. The Cuban Missile Crisis serves as a stark reminder of the potential devastation that can arise from ideological conflicts and nuclear arms races. It highlights the importance of diplomacy and negotiation in resolving international conflicts. And perhaps most importantly, it underscores the lasting impact of historical events on our present and future world.